Yeah, what's important to know about our profession is that we're going to go beyond just looking at eyesight and eye health and refractive status. Now, those are critically important, but we're going to go beyond that. We're going to go into the brain and look into how is it that the brain is coordinating the visual system? How is the brain receiving information arriving from the eyes? Vision occurs in the brain. It's a brain activity. It's not an eye activity as much. So in our office, none of us call an evaluation an eye exam, because an eye exam does not take very long and it's just the eyeball. So we do vision evaluations. We look at the visual perceptual development of a child. So that's what you need to know, is that we're going to go far deeper than that. It might even take about 3 hours to do this evaluation. And of course, we can't do that in one sitting. And most children can't endure that. So we break it up into 2, sometimes 3 different visits to ensure that we understand the full range of their abilities. So just want to say that, I don't want parents to be misled into thinking that if your child has 20/20 eyesight and their eyes are healthy, that's all there is to it. The nervous system wouldn't have dedicated 2/3 of itself to vision if that were the case. And so, it's important to have the full range of perceptual skills, ocular motor skills, visual thinking skills assessed to know whether or not your child's prepared to benefit from academic instruction, to benefit from all the other therapies that they're probably engaged in. So that's an important concept. In our office, we provide free infant evaluations just as a courtesy to the community, because we know how important that really is for that child's ultimate growth and development. So when we evaluate an infant, we're looking at primitive reflexes. We're looking at that child's ability to contend with gravity. And what does the body do about that gravity, that input that's given to that child from the vestibular system? Does that drive and is it nurturing ultimately visual development? Vestibular development is the earliest sensory system that we have that's developed even in utero. And the visual system is the latest one to develop. So vision is developed. And just to review, when I talk about vision, visual clarity is such a small part of that. It's important, but what's far more important, and what we know today, is that the visual skills necessary for child development go far beyond the ability to see clearly. So, but clarity is important. We do that, and we will assess that in an infant as well. We can determine if a child has good clarity as an infant, whether or not they see 3D as an infant, how well they can move their eyes and coordinate the focusing of their eyes, whether they need glasses or contacts even as an infant. All these things are assessed. Even their visual perceptual development to some degree can be evaluated in an infant. But the primitive reflexes are really important there. So we look at the primitive reflexes driving the infant's ability to learn to see. Yeah, the home environment's critical, because if a child's coming into vision therapy, for example, they come in once a week for about an hour. We work one-on-one with them, and it's a very pleasant and engaging kind of activity for most children. But what happens at home is really important. So we spend a lot of time with parents talking with them about how to arrange the physical environment for optimal visual development. So, for example, for children that are reading, we always recommend that they read from a sloped surface. About a 22-degree slope is really important. No closer typically than the distance from their elbow to the knuckles under their chin. Good posture is important for blood circulation, for muscular and skeletal stability, but also the ability to engage the physical environment so they're grounded. The light reflecting off the surface of their page is really important. So often we'll see a child who's maybe reading in the right posture and the right slope and everything, but the light's bouncing off the surface of what they're reading into their face. And it's kind of like somebody taking a flashlight and shining it in your face when you're trying to read. It's really difficult. Or you've had the experience possibly where you're looking at a computer screen and you see reflections off the screen. It's very irritating, and it's just biologically unacceptable to have a lot of light continuously in the eyes. So in terms of helping parents understand what to do at home, oftentimes we'll prescribe low blue light deflecting lenses to protect the visual system from the chronic and extensive use of computer screens that can actually interfere with normal visual functioning. And we often talk about nutrients at home as well. So not only do we talk about the physical environment and how to arrange for optimal learning, but we'll oftentimes suggest certain nutrients such as zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin, lutein, omega-3 acids to help develop a strong neurological foundation and visual foundation for visual information processing. At home, when somebody's doing vision therapy in the office, we almost always give home activities such as the multi-matrix activity that I have here, or activities, a ball hanging from the ceiling and doing very specific sequential activities with that, binocular activities to nurture binocular awareness. And these are fun things to do for children at home, but the parents become that child's therapist at home when it comes to a vision therapy program, because they really, over the course of the therapy program, understand vision at a much deeper level. Yeah, there's been several trends over the years that have come to the fore in terms of clinical interventions and clinical understandings, and that actually cognitive neuroscience has really helped us a lot in understanding how the brain develops and how the brain works, and it becomes more and more clear to everyone, I think, that vision is playing a huge role here. And the onset of electronic devices, as you know, over the last 30 years has just gone through the roof, and we're just not biologically prepared to contend with that. Now, I know it's socially compulsive, but it's biologically unacceptable to stare at a screen for long periods of time. And so there's evidence and there's reports in the literature, certainly, where children's eyes are actually crossing. They have normal binocularity. Now they're spending so much time on a close screen that their eyes actually begin to cross and they have double vision. So that's one of the real negative sides of extensive screen time. Extensive screen time also is implicated in the development of attentional difficulties, that is, shallow thinking and not self-directed thinking, but rather allowing the individual, I guess you could say on the other side of the screen, determining when and where your attention will be, kind of hijacking your child's attention and kind of harvesting their attention and when and where they're going to be thinking. That's something that parents really must think hard and long about, I think, because it's using that portal. Somebody on the other side of that portal is determining when and where your child's going to be thinking about what kind of content. And it's very narrow, and it's very focused on a certain part of the visual field. So our peripheral visual field is minimized and neglected, but that's the part of our visual field that helps us feel stable and in control in an environment. It helps us know when and where things are going to happen. It gives us a spatial construct inside of which we can be comfortable and relaxed and then process other information. So the trend over time with this sociological drive to look at screens and the social neglect of the people around us and the spatial neglect of the people around us, there's this significant cognitive shift in what people can choose to attend to, what they want to attend to, and it results in a lot of shallow surface thinking rather than deep, self-initiated cognitive activity. But it's rather relegated to somebody else's choice to drive where our activity and where our attention is going. So that trend's pretty significant. And so cognitive neuroscience has really helped us out a lot in understanding this, and also helping us realize that children are not exploring the world that they used to, and their perceptual range and their cognitive range is more directed by others rather than self-discovered by that child. Now, parents see the direct influence of screen time on children too, but as professionals in our literature, we're warned about it. We're taught to counsel our parents about that for their children. But parents see it, and they're having a really hard time, I think, controlling it. Now, again, like I said earlier, I think that there are some appropriate ways to use screen time for child development, but it doesn't usually outweigh the benefit of real-life three-dimensional activities with real people. Think of a screen as really a surrogate. It's a vicarious way of engaging the real world, and it's not the real world. It's a representation of it, but the brain wants more. And when the brain's given more, there's a different sense of emotional stability that's involved when you're with people. There's a different sense of physical satisfaction when you manipulate things and when you deal with gravity. So that's where the problem lies. And I fear that in the future, children that don't have that opportunity are going to be limited in their cognitive range. Well, yeah, I think that what's happened more than once is, and I can give you a specific example of a child who comes in who would never engage in eye contact and never really want to do much of anything other than be told what to do or when to move. And when we evaluated them, we determined that there's a significant refractive condition. So that alone, I mean, even though this child could, in fact, see detail, they had to put out so much muscular effort in order to do so that they would rather not put out that muscular effort. So when we were able to provide some lenses for them that did not improve clarity, they never were intended to, but rather provided that child an opportunity to engage in the clarity with less muscular effort and to actually see the spatial relationships of things around them relative to their body, they woke up. It was as though they just woke up and they stopped toe walking. I mean, I've seen parents just cry to see their child first walk without walking on their toes, and the child is happy and engaged and begins to be social and discovering their own athleticism and discovering their own ability to enjoy learning. These kind of things happen fairly often in our office because we're kind of a last resort for a lot of people. And so they've already gone through a lot of different clinics. And so when we see that kind of thing happen, and our therapists see that kind of thing happen, that's what keeps us going. And it makes us really appreciate the unique opportunity we have for kids to overcome these scenarios where they're just simply misunderstood and parents don't understand their child. So that's the opening that we love to see.